Cindi Claypatch.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. A little toasty in here, but I think as we relax, it'll just feel great. Thank you for coming out. I know it's hard to, those summer mornings when there's so many things that you could be doing, gardening and walking or laying in bed. So I appreciate your being here. So I just wanted to say that I was the director of the Health Realization Training Center with Pillsbury United Communities, and now I'm doing that under my own umbrella of Prospectives, Inc., and so I have been doing that training for many years. But for some of you who don't know me, maybe I'll just tell you a little bit about me. It might make sense as to some of the ways I might speak tonight or today. Having a little trouble with time already here. Well, I began my work in mostly working with people in chemical dependency in the early days. Had been dating an addict, got offered a job, started doing the job, then I went to school. It was one of those things, I probably ought to do something about this. And so as I was doing that kind of work, I realized that so much of the work was taking people down to try to go up. And so that never felt right to me. And what I always noticed was that to bring people into all of their negativity and their story also kept people in that place longer. So my work, I started to see was to do it differently, and fortunately I worked with a woman who I got to watch people come out of her group room smiling, and I was like, what is she doing? Because at that time it was popular if you could get people to cry, and then that meant you did good work. And so I watched her, and she got squeezed out of the agency because they didn't think she was taking her job seriously enough. Yeah, but for me, I had my eye on her because I thought there's something she's doing that people are connecting to that larger aspect in themselves. So I got attracted to that. So she left, and I went on to St. Paul Ramsey Medical Center, which is now Alina, and I started working with dual disorder programs, creating programs where mental health and chemical dependency were to be treated together, and that a person could actually be a whole person instead of their labels. And so that was really great work, and I really loved it, but I was getting burnt out because when people have an issue in either one of those, they can have a pretty messy life. Then Darlene calls me, and she said, something big is happening in the field of helping people. I think you ought to know about it. So I said, I'm on it, My first question was, is it any fun? And she was like, yes. So I went to this conference that totally changed my work because it was really realizing that everybody has a core aspect of well-being that's connected to source, and that I like to think of this body as just shrink wrapping that essence so that I get to come here and have an earthly experience. And so this body is just my vehicle, and that what I really hope people see is what's beyond that. And so that's the way I look at people. So I did that work for a long time and started a training center and go out and work in businesses or schools or working with individuals, families, communities, whatever. And what I've found is that no matter where you go, that makes sense to people. So it's been a really fortunate thing that my avocation is my vocation. So as I was doing that, I also started to see that as people changed the way they thought, realities changed. And so we began to really see that our reality is an inside-out job. Well, then I started to notice that even though people could have good thinking, sometimes they could have challenges with their body or other stuff. So then I started rolling around in consciousness and mind-body stuff. Went on a vacation in Mexico, stepped out of a shower, and I got filled with nerve pain from my knees to my shoulders. I didn't trip, I didn't lift, I didn't fall, I didn't anything. And so I remember at the time, the first thought I had was, crap. It was a little bit worse than that. But then the second thought was, I wonder what this is ushering in. Totally knowing that everything is in service to us. So I could barely walk for 2 years, and I couldn't sit for 6. And so during that time, I started to roll around in all kinds of different energy understandings. In the middle of that, I got, for lack of a better term, kind of gifted with some energy where my hands began to move automatically, and I started to be able to work with energy in a different way. And so since that time, then I thought, well, geez, this is pretty weird. I probably should understand this. So I went back to school, and I got my master's with the focus of consciousness, quantum healing, the quantum physics, those kinds of things. And so I feel just really privileged to be able to, as much as I can, just transmit understandings, hopefully in an understandable way. And so today's topic is really an interesting one because the mirror effect. That's got lots of different things. We could spend days on different directions with that, but I have limited time. So I've decided to just brush on a couple things, but then talk to you about a way in which I like to try to see people so that I keep getting more expanded and that I keep collecting and increasing the energy that I can carry. So, and then maybe at the end, if we have time, we'll do a little bit of a meditation. Does that sound okay? All right. So when you think of mirrors, what do you think of? Sorry? Reflection, yeah. And that's a whole nother day topic, isn't it? Reflection. So what kinds of reflections do we have? People reflect on themselves. They're usually beginning of the day, end of the day, taking a personal inventory sometimes. And then there's reflection on what do we send out? What are we reflecting and radiating? When you look at mirrors, you think of all the different, as I was reflecting, I was thinking about all the different ways in which we have mirrors and what we use them for. And so, mirror to see ourselves, right? And are we really looking at our true self or our container? So we have, a physical mirror in our 3D reality here that usually is, we're looking at to see our 3D reality, right? Yeah. And then we've got mirrors that help us see around corners. We have mirrors that are rear view mirrors, help us see what's behind us. Yeah. In Feng Shui, people use mirrors to bring more light in, to bring abundance in. So it's interesting that over time, mirrors have really an interesting topic. And when you look at it, it's a lot of times if somebody has died, cultures will cover a mirror. And do you know why that is? Because they believe that it's a portal. And so they don't want to confuse the person who's passed by letting them come back and forth. I would uncover all mine. Yeah. I would allow the person who passed to go on their journey, but then I'd want a portal, I love to have the relationship with the unseen. So, it's such an interesting thing. And then when we look at, let's just see if, we have that idea of as above, so below, And we're looking really at that as like within the field is everything. And wherever we are on this plane is a reflection. And so everything exists within the field, and everything can exist here too. And so it's really interesting. The challenge with that is to not draw conclusions on any current state of affairs as being the way it's going to be. Because then we stop bringing in what it is we want. And so it's a funny thing. I've talked before, some of you have heard me talk about conclusions, but I had just and I love day-to-day experiences that show me things. And the other day I was in my backyard, and I moved to my house about 4 years ago, and I planted some vines along a fence because the fence was pretty bland and the yard needed to feel like it was a little more cozy to me. So now the plants are actually growing, and I was walking in my backyard and I thought, oh, I don't have any trellises. That all my trellises were nailed to the fence of my last house. So I thought, I'm going to need to get some trellises. So anytime I'm going into a place, I go into Ace Hardware, and I saw some trellises there, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to pay that much. Then I went to Bachman's, and I was getting some mulch for my garden, and I looked at the ones there, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to pay that much. And then I drew the conclusion, I guess I'm not going to have any trellises. So that was innocent, right? That the brain just keeps offering stuff. It loves to sum things up and make a conclusion. So I caught it, because it felt bad. And so whenever something feels bad, I kind of do a checkup from the neck up and take a look at what I'm doing up here. And so I got my head clear, and I realized, oh, I just made a conclusion. Get that out of the way. And even if I don't know how something's going to show itself, I'd rather not conclude. I'd rather be in that space and find that comfort in the unknown with anything in life. So this is a pretty simple thing I'm describing. So a week or two goes by. We have our neighborhood garage sale. And I thought, well, I'll drive around and meet some people since I'm kind of still getting into the neighborhood. And whenever I'm doing stuff, I love to see if I can't also play with it energetically and to listen to my intuition. So I thought, I'm going to intuit the garage sales I'm supposed to go to. So I'm intuiting, and I get to this one garage sale, and there's the perfect toaster for my mom because hers is forever slow, and it was $1. And I was like, perfect. Cuisinart toaster, car. Go to my next intuition moment. Driving around, next thing, I end up finding a rug that's perfect for my mom because she constantly pulls my rugs up to the toilet because she doesn't like her feet cold during the night. But then I'm afraid she's going to trip. So I got this perfect little rug. Great. Drive. Then all of a sudden I'm at this garage sale and I'm not seeing anything that's occurring to me. So I'm like, I wonder how I got here. And I thought, just see if you can't tune in a minute. So I tune in, and my attention gets drawn to the garbage cans of the neighbors next door to this garage sale. And I look over and I walk over. Sure enough, 3 trellises sitting next to the garbage. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I said to the people, are they home? And they said, no, they're gone. And I said, do you know, are these for alley grabbers like me? And she goes, I don't know. They said they'd be running errands for an hour. Why don't you come back in an hour? I said, okay. I come back in an hour. They said, here, 3 trellises. How many did I need? 3 trellises. So it's that part about sometimes what we're able to bring in to be a part of this reality the potential is always huge. And with law of attraction, if some of you know about that, it's that the law is that, we're met vibrationally with wherever we are. So things come in that reflect our current vibrational state. So if I was in the concluding and feeling bad state for my poor little plants, what would I have manifested? Not much, right? So it's the beauty of one of the keys to reflecting more light is also to not dim, right? Dim your possibilities through your thought system. To not have any past experiences also kind of cover up what's possible. So it's, how many of you have ever, well, I'm sure you all have at some point either paid for a car wash and a buff, or you've done it yourself, right? And how does it look after you do it? shiny, reflective, huh? Yeah. You have jewelry, and it gets a little clogged and cloudy, huh? And then you shine it up, and then it's what? Shiny and reflective, yeah. So it's like as we clear like the veils of the ways that we think, then we radiate more out and we reflect out to other people what's possible. You know? And then we also receive more light. So it's kind of like, this is a picture that a little bit demonstrates like we are creating our reality with lots of little like pixels that vibrationally are coming together, creating pictures for us of what our reality really is. And so all our little thoughts are coming together and forming things, forming our experience of life. And so as we work with keeping clearer and work with the ideas that we are light, we reflect light, we receive light, then we start to see our life mirror up to us that state of mind. So a lot of times when people are looking at the mirror effect in terms of a psychological viewpoint, they're looking at the fact that the emotions that you are in bring those out in other people, that people do that. So in quantum physics, that would be called wave entanglement, that the waves that we're passing between us are encoding with each other something. Okay? And so sometimes we're kind of bright, and sometimes we're kind of dim. And vibrationally, or the feeling that we're in, will reflect that. And then we have uncontaminated mental health back there. That's okay, you don't have to leave, really. Yeah, unless you think so. So really, it's this amazing essence of who we are that is connecting with other people all the time. I have this guy, he's in a training class that I've been teaching the last 7 months, and he was sharing a story the other night that I just bust out laughing, because he said that, you know, he runs this recovery group, and this guy came in and he was so excited to see this guy because the guy hasn't been there for a while. And so he's like greeting him, hugging him, saying, "I'm so grateful you came. I'm glad you're here. We've missed you." And the guy was grateful and sat down. And then the guy in my class said that as they're going around and talking, he realized that wasn't the guy he meant. that guy who he hugged and did all that with has actually been a problem member of the group. Oh my God, I bust out laughing so hard. He says, the next week the guy comes back and he's hugging me and telling me how great it is to be back and how his life is so nice now and all these different things. And I was just like, oh my gosh, isn't that great? That despite himself, he put out a nice feeling to this guy. So it's so amazing. You know, I've often said here, like, what would it be like if we had amnesia? You know, that we could really see people fresh. And so that was a great example of the mirror effect, that had he accessed his thought system about this guy, he would have been hooked into the past and missed that opportunity to share in that way, right? And then lucky guy on the other side, he got to receive it, huh? And allowed himself to receive it. So it's quite fun when we start playing with life. So there's this part where we think we're doing our life and we're efforting in our own realities sometimes. And that will often block our flow as well, huh? Has anybody ever experienced that? Once or twice, right? Yeah. So, you know, when I thought of this topic, you know, there's that Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror. And so I like to roll around and stuff and look at things. And I found this clip that I think is a great demonstration of what it's like when we're efforting in our own mind thinking it's us doing everything without accessing something larger than ourselves. And so whatever that is for you, in this clip I'm going to have him show, it's a YouTube, and you may have seen it, it's Queen Latifah is directing a choir in the movie Joyful Noise. And what's so great is this young woman starts to sing, but she's singing from just herself. And then she's guided to hook up. So whatever that is for you, like when I work with the shamans in Peru or the Quiero, it's always hooking up to the cosmos, hooking up to the stars. You know, that we come from the stars, you know, and we come from God or source or whatever your reference is up to you. But this is a really great clip of noticing, I think they demonstrate the difference between doing it on your own and bringing in more light. So would you mind showing this? There's a shaman, Melodoma Somé, who I had some training with, and he said that at first you do the ritual, and then the ritual takes over and is running through you. You know? And so that is, we might have to set the stage sometimes, but when we hook up, you know, so much more is possible. You know? Trying to do life not hooked up, consciously, I mean, we're always hooked up, but to be conscious of that, we like open the valve for so much to come through. So do you remember this? Anybody old enough for this? Pink Floyd? Yeah. That was 1973, and so important because it's really showing a prism. And the prism is how white light is coming in, and then it gets reflected out, you know, in multiple ways. And that's how each of us are. You know, we're a prism. Each of us has light that we're bringing into the planet, and we're reflecting out in whatever way is meant to be for us. So I think it's really interesting, too, that one of the songs on that album is Shine On You Crazy Diamond. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So if you look at a diamond, it's multifaceted, right? And jewelers say that they start with a diamond and they kind of assume that there's going to be 8 main facets that they start with. But then as they're carving, they start to develop more and more facets as they're creating this. And they're sometimes avoiding flaws because we all have them. But, you know, you look at a diamond and you see the reflection from it. It's such a great stone for that reason, as you see that. So I'm interested in, like, diamonds are created and they're carbon, pressed carbon. We also are carbon. You know, we come with these different ingredients. And people say we come from the stars, you know, whether it's the Big Bang or whatever. So human beings versus each person maybe creating a baby is we came with lots of ingredients connected to the same things that are so shiny or that are so powerful in the world. So when you are kind of in your daily life, if you think to just, I like to say to myself, Cindi, hook up. You know, it's just to hook up. To be conscious that I could connect to much more power, much more light, much more wisdom, whatever it is, that's all possible. And then I want to become multifaceted. You know? I want to, like, look at those. Reflection, huh? Look at how much they pick up and how much they reflect. So as I'm doing life, I think of like each of you here as a diamond. My mom used to, or Dad used to say, you're a diamond in the rough to me. Like, guess that meant I was pretty rough. But it's like each of us, and we're all beaming something to reflect from. You know? So when I know some of you in the room here, but like if I were looking at Tracy, one thing I know that she transmits is this gentleness and warmth. And I know Christy, amazing at articulation and connection. Joan, kindness. And so each person is like got all kinds of facets to them. And rather than just taking those lightly, I want to zoom in on those. I like to zoom in on those because then as I notice it in them, it reflects and it's a connection that I get to develop more. It wakes something in me. If I can appreciate it in somebody else, it means it somehow exists also in me. But it may not be my biggest deal. But I might want it to be a bigger deal. So I want to keep my eye on the stuff that people are transmitting that feels good and allows me to expand. And so we kind of come from a culture where there's some beliefs about complimenting people. What are some of those? Anybody? Right, right. Or you can't tell them that, it might go to their head. Well, so what? You know, that it takes more from you to retract and contract than it does to offer. So in that offering, then you're like tickling that in that person, but you're also recognizing it so that then it beams back to you. Isn't that fun? Yeah. Well, we have a habit in our culture to look at the stuff that annoys us and to keep our eye on that, and it's really pretty hard to be shiny when your attention is on what's not. Right? So I'm always looking for the little things. I was in Peru recently in April, and so this woman, we are up in the high mountains of the Andes, about 16,000 feet, and it's with the Quero Indians, who are the kind of keepers of the ancient knowledge. And this woman looks down and sees that little flower up there, and the joy was unreal. And because they walk down from the high mountains to get to this part, you know, so they don't see a whole lot of flowers where they are. So this tiny little flower, I wished I have the video of them singing, but this tiny little flower, everybody zoomed in on, of these Quero Indians, and then they asked for permission to pick it. And then when they picked it, they sang a song to it, out of gratitude for picking it. And then she put it in her hat to bring it home to show the village. Okay? So when you hear that story, what touches you about that? Like if you were to look at what could I learn from that, or what aspect are those people beaming me? You know, what would that be?
That we take a lot of things for granted.
Mm-hmm. So appreciation, they're mirroring appreciation to us. Yeah. Yeah. Mirroring the gratitude for the simplicity. Mirroring respect. Yeah. I'm sorry? A little scary up there. And the other thing to me is they're also mirroring this relationship that this little thing is alive, and I have to ask it permission. You know? And then I got permission, so now I need to be grateful. You know? So it's that, like, to me, that mirrored up all things. The tiniest little things are alive and have that same light running through it, and that light somehow caught their eye because we missed it. So their attention is also on everything. They're keen. Their minds are very pure and very clear. So they're seeing, like with a capital S. So little things like that, if you can, that's your charge. If you could do anything for me, it would be to go out in the world and start noticing what it is about each person that crosses your path. What is it that they are offering you? And even if it's a dull vibration, then you can turn that around because that's offering you the contrast. You know? That when somebody is disrespectful to me, then I see it and I don't have to get into the story of the disrespect. I'm going to look at that disrespect and see it as like, wow, I don't want to be that way. And I'm going to look at that disrespect as if it's just like some film or dirt that got hung up on the diamond. That the gem is still there, huh? So I don't want to be fooled. I don't want to be fooled by the density. So then, where do we want to form this light? Do we want to put it in the form of love? Do we want to do anything with it? Do we want to walk in it? Because we are mirroring. We're mirroring up to people the possibilities and the potential. So it's like taking your insights and taking your light and shape-shifting. Put it in the form of humor, put it in the form of kindness, put it in the form of love, whatever that might be. Is that we are shapeshifters. We are not stuck. We're not dense where we have to, any part of us has to be fixed. So remember those disco balls? That when the light is on it and it starts to have movement, then what does it do? Reflects it all around them. And it's almost hypnotic sometimes. When you're in the presence of somebody who's throwing light and energy, you feel alive, or you feel like almost in a hypnotized way of, I would say, to not be in your beta brainwave, which is your everyday tasky brain. That when you kind of connect to the energy and to the light, you get to drop down. And then you're now in an alpha brain state, which is a much quieter state of mind that keeps you clear to then receive and to project more. So that's kind of what I want to be, huh? I don't know if I'd watch Saturday Night Live again, but... So, are you up for a short meditation? Okay, so let's, if you can, I'll do a little bit of energy work while we're doing it. If you could put on some music. So if you could, just kind of get yourself comfortable in your seat. Feet on the floor, if that works for you. Imagine that you could just settle the mind as if it's got just kicked up sand in water. And all the granules of thought drop down. And allow them to just be dormant for a few minutes so that you can get into the flow of your being, the flow of the light, the flow of your true consciousness. If it helps, take your thoughts and drop them into your heart space. Take your mind into your heart space. Imagine that in the center of your being, it's like a station that receives light and information. Imagine just as you adjust your thinking, you're tuning to that station. That station is bandwidths to the cosmos. Imagine being connected to like satellite dish. All the different frequencies and vibrations existing within the field are available to you. Imagine yourself as a diamond. Notice what are your facets, your gifts right now. Imagine what it'd be like to be clear in allowing those gifts come through you and be radiated out to those around you. Imagine how nice that feels when you open those doors and allow it to move through you. No hesitation or contraction. Releasing the resistance and the thoughts that have gotten in the way. Imagine all of the unrealized gifts and potential that have yet to be carved out or realized. Invite those to show themselves. Invite in the cooperative components within the people you are surrounded with, your communities or the field, that can mirror that up for you and imprint and activate those facets of yourself unseen. Imagine that white light coming through the top of your head, moving down through your third eye, your throat, into your heart space. And imagine all the colors that go out through your diamond. Multiple faceted self. Ask that your system integrate those frequencies to support you. Ask to release anything that's getting in the way. the energy from the top of your head, the white light, pushing the colors out through your being and connecting to the earth, Pachamama, to ground it, that we wanted to be here on this planet during this time, bringing light onto the planet, bringing in our gifts and the gifts of the unseens. Imagine bringing the energy up from the earth to meet the energy in your heart from the cosmos. And imagine the explosion of energy around you, all the particles of light and information. And imagine that filling up your bubble, your personal field, allowing you to feel charged and vitality to do your life. Feel the colors, the vibration. Imagine each of those particles twinkling and reflecting light. Now offer that same light to the planet. Imagine that you have so much of it and you're connected to an unlimited resource of it, that it takes nothing for you to offer it to the world. Pushing it out through your family, your community of Lake Harriet, to the Minneapolis, St. Paul, the suburbs, pushing it out to the rural areas of the state and throughout all other states within our country, to our border countries, and to those beyond. Imagine the whole world running in new energy. People are transmitting the best of themselves. Imagine the possibilities of an enlightened world. Yourself to the energy. How does it feel running through you? Imagine that that light is your true identity. Become acquainted to that frequency. Ask that your earth suit absorb that frequency to assist you in healing, to assist you in realizing your gifts. Take 3 deep breaths. And bring yourself back into the room. Feeling your body on the seat, the backrest, your feet on the ground. Wiggle your toes, move your fingers, come back into the room, and slowly open your eyes. Okay, so in the spirit of the collective, we believe that the collective energy obviously is greater than our own individual energy. So if we throw out our intentions of what we're looking for or what we'd like to send out to the world, and then we'll ask that the community send that energy up and out into the field. And then at the end, we're going to yell Salka. Okay, Salka is undomesticated energy, and so we're going to push the undomesticated energy behind all the intentions, okay? So I'll guide you once we're there. All right? So anything anybody would like? Light. Any other personal intentions that you might have to yourself, feel free to throw them in as well. So we're going to, at the count of 3, we're going to yell Salka and push the intentions out into the world. 1, 2, 3, and raise your hands. Salka! All right. Thank you.